Welcome to the Synergetic Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Bieber, and our mission is simple: to help young professionals maximize their influence and impact. Let's jump into today's episode. Welcome to Synergetic Culture. I'm your host, Adam Bieber, and today we are making history on the Synergetic Culture Podcast because it's the first time ever that I'm going to be interviewing and having two guests on the podcast at the same time, and it's strategic. It's on purpose, and it's for a reason, and so I'm just glad that you guys are tuning in to watch this interview. I want to welcome Danny and Zane Nolte to Synergetic Culture. Guys, welcome.
Thanks so much, Adam. We're so excited to be here.
Awesome.
Good. Well, listen, there's a couple of reasons why I wanted to have you guys on. One, the mission of this podcast is to help young professionals maximize their influence and impact. And as I've been thinking about what better way to encourage, equip, and empower young professionals than to engage with a couple that I know really well. And so I wanted to take this opportunity to spotlight you guys a little bit because you both are individually and then together having a big impact on your work lives, your relationship lives, and then also just your community. And I think that's important. And I think you're a great example of people that are leading by example in that space. So it's for that. But then also it's just this fun dynamic of getting to interview a couple. Because you guys have been married for how long now, Zane?
May 18th will be a year, so coming up, almost there.
Almost there. Actually, by the time this airs, it might be really close to your anniversary, which is awesome.
Yeah,
So guys, welcome. I'm super pumped to have you both. Before we really jump into kind of who you guys are and your background, I would love to do kind of an opening icebreaker. So here's the question. What is something that the world needs to know about you that they wouldn't necessarily find out just via social media or LinkedIn? And Danny, why don't you go first?
Okay. Well, I guess if we're going LinkedIn on the
Okay.
professional side,
Yeah.
it is very much just my work experience.
Sure.
So one thing that I think the world, if they were to appreciate it, and I'll explain a little bit more so on LinkedIn, would be musical theater.
Yeah.
As a hobby, I've always done theater. I love being in musicals. And I think if people knew how much rehearsal time and memorization time and
Seriously.
practice go into it, and adaptability and people skills that go into theater, I think I would probably advertise it on LinkedIn a bit more. But for now, I'm gonna keep it under wraps.
Keep it under
Be
wraps.
low key.
It is, you are incredibly talented.
Oh, thank you.
And so being that I've heard you sing a lot,
It's true.
both on stage and just, randomly.
Yes.
Randomly, emphasis.
We may be able to get
emphasis on the random.
a little, a couple stanzas, if you will, at some point during this
Oh.
episode. No,
Oh,
probably
yeah.
not.
No, I'm not warmed up. So
Okay.
next episode.
All right. I love it. You're incredibly gifted and talented, and I do think the world should know about that because it's really cool. And it's crazy amounts of work.
Yes.
Crazy amounts of work. What about you, Zane?
I think probably that I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
Skiing, scuba diving, skydiving, sign me up.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I've done water skiing. I'm a certified scuba diver. I got certified in Hawaii,
Yeah.
where I'm from.
Jealous. I got certified in a quarry in Alabama.
Yes. Both of us.
Interesting experience, a little different.
Very much so.
Yeah, like we're talking 40-foot visibility at 40 feet deep, just like crazy crystal clear water. Amazing,
Beautiful.
amazing, yeah.
Beautiful.
I'm also an adrenaline junkie. It's kind of a byproduct of having ADHD is deficiency in dopamine. And so I often chase thrills like that. Have not been skydiving yet, though.
I actually haven't either. I was supposed to. I was actually on a plane with a NATO colonel in Brussels. He flagged me down on the street. I had been in one meeting with him at NATO HQ, and he was like, "Oh, Zane, do you want to go skydiving this weekend?" I was like, "Yes." And we got in the plane, and it was too cold. The pilot was like, "If we slow this down, the engines will freeze or something." I don't know,
What?
but the weather wasn't good, and so we were up there. I was tied in for the tandem jump, and
Then it didn't happen.
This close to
Landed
jumping
again.
What
out.
a tease.
I
with a
know.
NATO colonel in Brussels.
I know.
I don't know.
Super casual.
Yeah, you definitely will win that bingo card every time if that comes up because that's
Still crossing my fingers that it appears on some card one day.
yeah. That's amazing. Super cool. Well, listen, I want to get to know you guys a little bit better and give our audience the opportunity to get to know you guys a little bit better. So, if you wouldn't mind, Zane, you've got a really unique background being that you're originally from South Africa. You have a citizenship from another country.
Yeah.
You speak a number of languages. I'm not going to steal all the thunder here. And you find yourself as working toward your citizenship here in America. So, like, what? Give us a little bit of backstory about you, and then Danny, we're going to come to you after.
Yeah, so all my family's from South Africa, going back to like 1856 or something. All from there, from like different parts of the country, but I was born there, kind of grew up there a little bit until I was 5 years old, and then my dad works for like a German company. They paid his way through college and then moved us to Germany eventually, and
Wow.
grew up there in an American school, sort of. So it was a very international, multicultural childhood, being raised by South African immigrant parents in Germany, and then moving to the U.S. for high school. My dad's still at the same company, so they're kind of
Wow.
just moving us everywhere. But yeah, that's kind of how I ended up in the U.S., and it's my background. So Afrikaans is my first language. Learned German, learned English, and also Spanish a little bit later, but God knew I needed to know that because
Yeah.
my beautiful wife.
Yeah, that's right. So, you're a German
Yeah.
citizen.
Yeah, German citizen. It took us a while to get citizenship,
Okay,
actually.
wow.
It was a long process. They're super strict over there with the rules. So it was like 8 years before we could even
Wow.
consider applying.
Wow.
And they don't allow dual, or didn't. Now they do, but so I had to give up South African citizenship.
Wow. And was that a strategic move by your family, just thinking that you guys were going to be in Germany for a long time?
Yeah, and you know, the
And then they're
German-
like, psych, go to America.
No, for real. They're like, no, we thought we were gonna retire there. They just built a house, and then they're like,
Wow.
oh, okay, we're moving.
Okay.
But it was a strategic move. With German passports, the most valuable in the world. You can go like at the most different places without a visa, and then
Wow.
you get free education system there, like all that stuff. Compared to what South Africa had to offer, you know, it'll always be my home, and we visit all the time. I still have permanent residency there, but
Yeah.
we're like, okay, if we have to choose, we'll take the German for now.
That's really cool. Two-part question here, and I promise we're coming to Danny. What was it like being a student and just kind of the shift in culture and from an education standpoint coming to America, or just the different countries, and then
Yeah.
ultimately resulting in high school here in America?
Yeah, I would say, so I was in an IB school, like International Baccalaureate. So the level of rigor compared to my regular high school in the U.S. was a bit higher. But when I moved here, it taught me the importance of having that balance and quality of life, because suddenly I had the capacity to invest in relationships. I had the capacity to invest in sports that I really cared about, and random other, extracurriculars, books that I really wanted to read, and found myself being more successful, having more flexibility. Things like AP or dual enrollment are not a thing. So actually was able to like finish college in 2.5 years because of that flexibility, which would not have been a thing.
Subtle flex, college from the Georgia Institute of Technology in 2.5 years, which is pretty amazing.
Correct.
Unbelievable, man.
My man.
And then the faith journey. That's a lot of transition. I moved multiple times, Hawaii to California to Georgia. Culture shifts that I experienced still within the 50 states, but those are kind of impactful moments in my life. Faith played a big part in that for me. Tell me about
100%.
that for you.
Yeah, every step of the way, God's been the one guiding our path. My parents have a story of them visiting Germany and deciding, you know what, this is not the move for our family.
Wow.
And on the plane back, God like put on their hearts, like, no, like you're gonna trust me. You guys are leaving South Africa, and obviously, huge ramifications. So they've taught me along the way to just trust in God, and He's made a path for that. Germany, I would say, was obviously very different from the U.S. in terms of just how you can live out your faith. It's a lot more Catholic. It's a lot more secular.
Sure.
Which is just not the background that we came from, at least, and so it's been lots of transitions, but it's taught me how to be flexible and how to grow even in difficult environments.
Amazing. All right, let's shift here, Danny. So you are the daughter of immigrant parents that came from South America, specifically Colombia. And so as a first-generation American, you had a different experience, but also a multicultural experience. So tell us a little bit about how you grew up.
Yeah, for sure. So my parents and my oldest brother are all from Colombia. Came here when he was 8, and then had me 2 years later. And it was definitely, they went to school here and, started putting in their work to get their career started. My dad has always owned his own business, so he was very much starting the business, running it. My mom was continuing in school, things like that. So she developed her English a bit more. My dad, we basically just speak Spanish with him. He somehow can do business in English very well, though.
Yeah.
I think it's just like a universal language or something that he speaks.
Sure.
And I'm like, how did that person, I couldn't even understand what you said, but somehow you got exactly what you were looking for there. But it's definitely a unique experience. A lot is like on your back, I think, sometimes, just thinking about everything that was sacrificed for you,
Wow.
for you to have like greater opportunities.
Yeah.
So it's a huge part of my experience, considering things like even college. My dad was like, if you don't get a scholarship, there's not really a college fund that exists.
Yeah.
And so, always knowing that I had to work hard, but that I would have that support from my parents, because they were like, they give it all up for me. So
Yeah.
I knew they always had my back, and thankfully was able to work through school. College was fully paid for.
Amazing.
By shout out to Zell Miller and all the Georgia scholarships.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
And they've absolutely shaped who I am today.
Yeah.
So very grateful.
They're amazing people. I feel like it's funny you mentioned just the difference in like your mom's retaining English quickly, and then like I've had conversations with your mom, but I feel like I've also like hugged and had conversations with your dad, but I don't really know what the conversations. But like you connect somehow, which is so cool, and I love that piece. What were you into as a child? Like, what was your activity life like while you were growing up?
Yeah, it was a lot of music and the arts. My dad was always a musician. He always loved the arts. Before he met my mom, he actually lived in Italy for like 3 years and was getting his
Wow.
degree in like film and things like that, and
Wow.
would do like host these like singing competitions and judge them and stuff like that. So I grew up and he was always writing music. He has like multiple songs that he's made for my mom, things like that.
Sweet.
So I always grew up singing, playing guitar, playing piano, and it's a huge part of who I am as well. And then doing theater starting in middle school.
Nice.
Me and my younger brother would do shows together growing up, and even now into adulthood, we just did one together, I think like 2 years ago.
Nice.
But I would say definitely the arts is where my strong suits lie. I also
Yeah.
did a little bit of like mock trial in high school that I really
cool.
enjoyed.
Okay,
but
awesome.
mostly I was like the witness who had to, think of all the comebacks on the stand.
Sure.
And they just liked that I was an actor, so I could easily
Be
do
dramatic,
it, not break
theatrical,
character,
yeah.
improv really well.
Sure,
So that was
sure.
kind of my growing up extracurricular activities.
And then what was your faith journey like during that season?
Yeah, so I grew up in a Christian household. I grew up going to a non-denominational church my entire life. And I would say when I started coming to our church, Cross, where we go, Adam, I was 14, I believe, and I just did not want to be there at all.
Oh.
And just, continuing to go, even though my mom is dragging me here, the people that invested in me was just like so evident that, man, there's like something different about this place and what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And I just remember joining the worship team, and we have this friend, his name is JT. He was doing my evaluation, and he was like, okay, like, where's your relationship with God at? And I was like, to be honest, I don't have one. And I like went home to my mom, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to get on the worship team because I don't have a relationship with God, all this stuff. And, they continued to pour and invest in me, and later, like, down the line, God on the team was serving, and I mean, now it's a weekly rhythm of leading worship on a Sunday morning and Sunday night and truly having that strong relationship. I would say the major turning point, as I was learning throughout high school, was my senior year. And that was when I was like, I'm all in. Like, I know what it's like to have a personal relationship with Jesus. And I was just ready to do, whatever it took and, get serious about my faith. So.
I love how quickly you guys turned around and started to give back. Like you both knew the value of those that went before you and invested in you, and have immediately turned around to start doing that for others. It's amazing. It's just cool to see the journey. I've only been a part of your lives coming up on 3 years. But even just to know more of your history through Katie, my wife, and just the different relationships that we have and the community that we're a part of, just to see the impact that you guys have had. And I'm often amazed. There are, I don't want to say this and try to sound, it's not to sound arrogant. I don't know very many people that can execute as much on their plate peacefully as Katie and I do. Like we just have so many things going, and our home is very peaceful. Our lives are very peaceful, but you guys are doing it. And it's a big part of why I want to have you guys on, is to just talk about like what rhythms you guys have, how you guys manage career, community, family, all those things. But I do want to take a moment and ask, how did this happen? Where did you guys meet? And then, Danny, I'll let you handle kind of where you met. And then Zane, since you were the one who had to take the initiative to ask her to marry you, kind of when you knew that was going to be in your future. So.
Yeah. We always say we're going to like make up a really cool story about how we met. That's why we were laughing, because it's one of the nerdiest things ever. So Zane was a German citizen. He was probably maybe a year.
Not even a year on this continent, and we met in high school, and both of our high schools went to this convention that the state of Georgia puts on called the State German Convention. It's for all students in Georgia who are learning German and are absolute nerds and want to go to a German camp.
Interesting.
And learn like how to do conversations with native speakers, or there's plenty of activities. Anyways,
plenty of activities.
Very fun. I was like the super nerd and was the vice president of this whole thing.
Wow.
And so I had to go in early, plan everything, help like put up the events and that sort of thing. And Zane's school was actually the one that put the entire thing on.
Oh, wow.
So they were like, okay, well, we have this like native German speaker that's a student. Let's just bring him early too. He can help out. And so I think in that he just like meshed in with like the officer crew that was setting up.
I still remember my first thought. I was like, wow, she's so pretty. She must be mean.
Oh, she must be mean.
Yeah.
That is. And how old were y'all at the time?
She wasn't.
16 and 15.
No, I was 16.
16 and 17.
Yeah.
You're older.
Yeah, I'm 1 year older.
Oh, okay. And so how quickly after that did you guys start dating?
It was kind of a gradual thing.
Okay.
We just never stopped talking after that point.
Did you guys have a define the relationship conversation?
We did.
Yeah.
It was me. I was like, listen,
What is
I'm
this?
really
Who are we?
serious about Jesus. And if you're not, like, this is not going to work.
I love it.
Do you see this going? It was very intense for a 17-year-old to, like, hear. But when I met Zane at the convention, we had this random conversation. And he just, like, brought up a Bible verse. And I was like, who are you? And so from that point on, I was like, these are my boundaries. This is what I believe. Like, if you're not cool with any of this, I don't see this going anywhere and would like to not continue. And he was like, no, I'm cool with it. Like, this is great. And I was like, who are you? Like, let's do this thing.
That's legit. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, that segues well into kind of how did I know that you're the one for me? I think that core value lineup was such a huge thing of knowing, like, when we have kids, when like times are really rough, we're going to be aligned on what we think is the right thing to do in a situation. Having Jesus as our first priority, the most important person to me, the most important person to Danny, and then being each other's second priority is huge. But then more than that, it's also, this is my best friend. We're lining up on a personality level. We're lining up on like a life goals level. We have like similar interests. Like I don't sing as well as Danny does, but I love watching her sing.
Yeah.
And so like all those little small things added up. And one day I was just like, dang, like I'm never finding anyone like her.
Yeah.
Like this is my person.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for tuning in here. I want to thank our sponsors, the O Agency and Wingman Payments, for supporting this podcast and believing in what we're doing here. And then you guys dated for how long, and then just got married last year?
Yeah, it was, I think, almost 5 years
Wow.
of dating.
I think it was 5. Was it 5 years?
Slightly over 5 years.
Yeah, slightly over 5 years. So we started officially dating May 5th of 2019 or something.
Yeah, 2019.
And then we got married May 18th of 2024.
Wow. I'll never forget the day you guys got engaged because y'all came over to our house. I think it was Friendsgiving.
Yes.
And so there were a bunch of folks from our church that were over, and it was our first Friendsgiving together. I'm pointing at Katie, who's off camera. And so we had the whole house, and we knew it was happening because Zane had told us.
They were part of making it a surprise.
Yeah.
The Biebers.
Because I think part of the whole thing
yeah.
was like she had to get ready because you told her that you guys were coming.
Yeah.
And
It
then
was a formal Friendsgiving.
yeah, very
And Adam-
formal Friendsgiving.
And Adam is just like, yeah, I'm going to wear my wedding suit. And I was like, dang, how crazy are we going for Friendsgiving?
Yes.
So they
She
had
got
you
dressed.
dressed up
Yeah,
well.
Yeah, they did dress
for
you
the
up well.
engagement.
That was special. Yeah, it was super cool to be a part of that and
Yeah.
just celebrate with you guys, and then be at your wedding last year and celebrate with you guys. Let's pivot a little bit. So you guys both are working really hard in your careers. You both have graduated from school. Zane, you're working on your master's, hopefully finishing that soon. And you guys are both in different career fields, both very high capacity career fields. So Zane, let's talk about, so you're in the cyber insurance space.
Yeah.
As an assistant underwriter. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So talk to what led you from school at Georgia Tech to want to go into this field?
God, all the way.
Yeah.
That's a short answer. Started off studying international relations, not cyber insurance,
Yeah.
not cyber anything. Got an internship at a finance firm here based in Atlanta doing geopolitical intelligence work. Still, the link is not there. But just putting myself out there, learning about things that weren't in my job description, like sitting next to our cyber threat intel lady who called herself a corporate grandma, and she just became my mentor, and I just learned a bunch from her just because she was willing to share. So identifying those key people was huge.
Yeah.
And then just worked on some random projects with her. Kind of pivoted from there. My time at that company ended, and I was really looking for the next role so that we could get married. And actually, through church, Paul put me in touch with a friend of his, who put me in touch with a friend of his, who put me in touch with a friend of his, who sent my resume to a friend of theirs, who sent my resume to a friend of hers, and just got a call one day
Wow.
for like the cyber underwriting role. And I was like, well, I didn't apply for this. I have no idea how you got my information, but this sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another.
Well, it's important to note that one thing led to another, but it has directly impacted the work that you're doing
Yeah.
now on a volunteer basis. I know we're going to get to community and stuff, but tease out a little bit about the think tank that you're a part of and
Yeah.
kind of some of the things that you are able to bring at least your knowledge and experience into that space.
100%. I would say, so I'm involved with the MIA Institute for Strategic Studies. I'm the head of the intelligence desk there. And it's been such an awesome opportunity to integrate, some of the work I did at Georgia Tech, doing research with them as an intelligence analyst, and then also as a cyber risk underwriter, and kind of putting that together, working with a team of amazing people. The MIA Institute is a youth-led think tank. Our goal is to be fully skilled, fully operational in 3 to 5 years. And really what we bring to the industry is that we're the only global think tank that has that youth perspective. We're
Wow.
unorthodox. We're the only actors that are saying, hey, we're young, we're part of Gen Z, we're part of a new generation.
Yep.
We have a new approach to things. We know how to leverage new tools, and it's really important to us to shape a world that we want to live in.
And right now it's a labor of love. You're not drawing a paycheck from it.
100%.
So when he says fully operational, he really means fully funded in 3 to 5 years,
Yeah.
where it'll pay an amazing benefit for you. But also, you guys are the only youth-led think tank that is focused on one area.
Yes, it's MIA representing the Middle East and Africa.
Yeah.
And really what's at the heart of what we do is producing intelligence and policy research insights that are truly actionable. We
Wow.
want to only work on something that we see, okay, in our same 3 to 5 year timeline, if a policymaker were to pick up this document and read it and implemented these changes, that lives would be changed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. We're going to come back to that in a little bit. Danny, I'll never forget the conversation we had when
Yeah.
you're like, yo, I'm finishing up college and I'm starting to interview. And what do you think about me taking a sales role? Knowing that I'm this passionate sales guy. And then even just the conversation after you got your offer letter and you're going to this big tech company that people dream of getting to work at. Talk a little bit about just your experience today. You're in a sales role at a large tech company, hustling. You've crossed over the 1 year mark there. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, Adam, thank you, because I think when I got that offer, I was like, what do I do? Like, it's kind of an imposter syndrome.
Sure.
I would definitely
Sure.
say, being young professionals, we're like, is this supposed to be my next step here?
Yeah.
So incredibly grateful for the opportunity. And then also your advice to just be like, this is an amazing opportunity, and
Yep.
just kind of walking through with you, like
Yeah.
knowing that you had that background.
Yeah.
So I was really grateful to have you in my
Yes,
life for
of
that.
course.
And for the opportunity to have the role that I'm currently in, I would definitely say it is super fast paced. It's tech, so it's constantly evolving and changing.
Yep.
And being leaders in the market, it's really, really fun because you get to say my company did that first, and hopefully this can help your business in the future. And
Yeah.
get to interact with some of the best people in the industry. I truly believe my company hires like amazing people
Yeah.
only, and so getting to know them, but also it connects you to, let's say, a prospect or a partner from a different company, and you're like, wow, these connections are so valuable
Yep.
and have taught me so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the network, the opportunity to build a really dynamic network, for there to be a lot of other really high performing people that know who
Yes.
you are, is awesome. You're making a name for yourself here in Atlanta, which is great. And so I guess here's my question. Like you kind of hinted at this. It is such a high capacity role. Both of your jobs. Practically speaking, how do you guys support each other in the midst of really high capacity, demanding, long hour professions? We'll start there because you guys do a lot of other things, but let's
Yeah.
just start with how you guys support each other through your professions. Danny, you can
I
start
guess
with this one.
extremely practically,
Yeah,
Zane makes sure I go to bed on time.
that's great.
So that I can actually wake up in the morning. I'm not a morning person. Zane is so a morning person. And one of the things I could brag about him all day, but Zane does everything he can, since my morning is a bit earlier, leaving for work and everything than his is, to make it as smooth as possible for me to get out the door. He like, I could get out of bed and he's like holding my robe in his hand, and he's making my lunch and packing it up for me.
Wow.
I'm just like filling up my water bottle, putting it in my backpack, and having everything at the door ready just for me to walk out. I would say it's just like the very practical things that he
Yeah,
does, so
yeah.
that I start my day off right, and then also like just go to bed at a decent time so
Yeah.
I get enough sleep so we can
Sure.
do this over.
That's a great practical one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, I think like our shared calendar is everything to us.
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And then I think maybe to zoom out a little bit on how we kind of do it all together, both like professionally and in marriage. It's about teamwork. It's not always like 50-50 split. Sometimes it's I give 80, sometimes I get 80.
It's great.
And it flexes. So I know end of quarter for Danny, like with hitting those sales targets, like I'm going to have a bit more capacity. I'm going to have to lend a little more help, make sure
Yep.
dinners are ready. But I know for me, 7/1 is a huge day in insurance, July 1st, and I have like 30 or 40 policies to renew on that day. So
Yeah.
that week is going to be crazy, and Danny's going to support me during that week. And so it's sometimes your mind will lie to yourself like, oh, like I always do this, but no, it's teamwork. We do everything
It really
together.
is, yeah.
Yeah, that's inspirational. There's a lot of people that just are I guess more self-centered in the way that they interact in relationships. They're trying to protect their space and their vibe and their thing, and you guys selflessly support each other through those ups and downs and kind of the ebbs and flows really of your day. I empathize actually more with Danny in the end of quarter, like burst sprint right up to the end. Katie for sure gets it. She knew what the EOQ feeling was and help support me through those, many of them. And so it's great to see. It's really awesome. As you guys continue to pursue your careers, I have no doubt that you're going to continue to climb because you guys have been doing it and you're going to continue to do it. When it comes to the community, it would be safe to say you guys are very busy people. You guys have very full lives, and outside looking in, someone might say, "Hey, you guys are involved in enough, but you guys just take it up another notch." We've talked about it already, but your commitment to our church, to our community, to the next generation. Talk a little bit about what you have gotten out of pursuing that, Zane.
Yeah, I think that the involvement in our community has just increased our ability to have peace.
Yeah.
I think one of the downsides of my generation is that we have so much connection over Instagram or so many social platforms that sometimes we can neglect having that human face-to-face interaction. And I think it's really big. We've developed such great friendships. We've developed such great mentorship relationships that have truly poured into us. And I think maybe once you get started serving, so Danny and I are part of the worship team. We serve high school students as kind of like small group leaders. And it might be a little bit of work and commitment at first, but honestly, like we look forward to Sundays. We look forward to being able to see our people.
Yeah.
There's sometimes, you're praying through a tough situation with a kid, but like it's so incredibly rewarding, and you feel that sense of celebration with them when, it pans out and it works out for them. So I think it's a really big deal to live outside of your own life. I think that's a huge mistake that people make.
Yeah.
Like be less self-centered, because that way the hard times for us are not as hard, and the good times that our friends and our family and our community are going through can also be celebrated within our home.
Yeah. Anything you'd add?
Yeah, I mean, I would say back to people investing in us and mentors just pouring into our lives, the opportunity to do that, we know firsthand how impactful that can be in someone's lives, in someone's life, and how it can completely change your trajectory when you know that somebody's in your corner and always rooting for you. So to be able to do that for other students growing up and then watch them already start to do that for their younger peers it's beautiful. Like just knowing that you're kind of following along in the footsteps of your mentors and your leaders and creating that dynamic shift. It is countercultural, and just not only thinking about yourself, but people have poured into me. How can I pour into others?
Wow. Yeah.
And even from like such a practical like perspective, I would not have my job.
Yes.
Pardon me. If it weren't for our church.
Yeah. 100%.
100%.
Yeah. The gentleman that you mentioned, Paul, is just like the ultimate servant. Just all over the place serving in our church. He's in an extremely high capacity job, traveling the globe, doing what he does, but he always finds time to serve and give back. And he's looking for ways that he can very literally help. And so I remember just as you were like, guys, I'm finishing school, I'm ready for this job search. He was invested in helping you along that journey to whatever extent he could. It's just awesome.
He's one of those people that when he's asked like, hey, like, how are you doing? Like he digs in. He's like, no, I actually want to know. And I think that's a big deal.
It really shows the power of community. It also shows, there's this idea, if you guys haven't read, there's a book sitting right there called The Only Leaders Worth Following by Tim Spiker. And he talks about the best leaders. They did this research. There's loads of data in it. If you're like a data nerd, reading books like Good to Great and like trying to consume all of the data of how did these companies become great companies, it's like that for leaders. So I would encourage you to check it out. But the whole idea is the most impactful leaders have the same two qualities, and it's not extroversion or introversion or, you know, this type A or, you know, whatever type of leader. It's someone that's inwardly sound but others focused.
So good.
And so those are the people that have the most impact. And they actually say that majority of your impact as a leader comes from those things,
Wow.
not from are you hitting every single target or goal that's set out in front of you, or are you writing as many policies as you're supposed to write, or are you solving these global concerns of your think tank. Really, the effectiveness of your leadership will always be starts here in your soul. Are you inwardly sound? And then are you others focused? And you guys are a great example of that. I want to talk about marriage and just kind of how you guys are navigating that. I already asked kind of how you help each other through the day and your professional life, but if you have any additional thoughts on what it looks like for you to have a God-centered relationship in marriage in the midst of all of the things around you, competing things for your attention, competing priorities, competing professions, all of that. How do you stay grounded?
Yeah, I would say when we started dating, I definitely wanted to be very transparent about my expectations, my boundaries, and, you know, let me run this all by you and see if you're on board, and if not, like, it's not something I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Zane was, and he was interested in actually keeping those boundaries.
Amazing.
One of the ways that we did that was, I think it was the first 6 months of us dating. We actually had one of my friends chaperone every single day.
Oh my gosh.
Like, shout out to my friends. Shout out to my friends, because they sat through bowling dates, movie dates, restaurant. Like, they would, every single date that we had a third person there.
Wow.
Just to, you know, make sure that kind of level, as we're getting to know each other, and, you know, kind of that initial honeymoon phase type of attraction and things like that. You know, just to make sure that we're grounded in that. And is your partner, I guess, in a God-centered marriage, is your partner involved in church? Do you know that they're actually in the Word of God? Do you know that they have a personal relationship with God? Because if he doesn't have that personal conviction, he can't just have it because I say it's something that he should do.
That's good.
That's not gonna last.
Yep.
He could end up resenting me for something like
Sure.
that. So
Sure.
it has to be personal convictions
Yep.
that align, and being willing to put in the work for, you know, and not, you know, settle for something that culture thinks is cool and okay, or
a gray area, maybe.
Gray area, things like that.
Yeah.
I think it's super cool to have someone who I know is on my side. You know, if there's something that I don't like about culture, or, you know, something that we want to implement, like, we're fine being different. We're fine doing something weird as long as we're doing it together.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
cool.
also think to kind of pivot that, like, in those, like, harder seasons, like, I do not have the power individually as Zane to, you know, like, cook dinner, pack lunch, still perform at work, like, write papers, do readings. Like, it's all the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Like, I need to sit down. Like, he is my peace. Every morning I pray. I'm like, I read his word, I get filled up, and I just recenter, because life is chaos. Like, we all know it. Schedules get crazy. Stuff happens. And, like, I need to stay anchored through it all, and he's the only constant in my life.
It's great. That's so good.
Zane is like that disciplined guy that just rolls out of bed in the morning, straight onto his knees, and prays. And, like, for me, when I wake up, and I'm, again, not a morning person, I'm, like, so groggy, and I just see that, and I'm like, yeah, I want to do that too. Like, you know, so he's such a great, just, like, leader in our spiritual walk together.
Yeah.
And prays for me, like, before I walk out the door. And, you know, it's just having that, like, you know, we're gonna do it for ourselves and for each other.
Yeah.
To put the Lord
The
first.
small habits add up, I think.
Yeah.
They do. They certainly do. One thing I would encourage you guys to, just having walked through some difficult relational seasons of my life, and then also just being a handful of years ahead of you guys in terms of age and experience. Stay connected to those mentors. Don't hurt alone. Like as you guys go through things, if stuff happens or when stuff happens around you or to you or through you, open up. You don't have to do it alone. It's okay to show up, not okay. And know that people like me and Katie and some of the others in our community, Paul, you already mentioned him and his wife Amanda are some of the most generous people I've ever known in my life. We often say when we grow up, we want to be Paul and Amanda.
Yeah, same.
And so we're grateful that we have this community, and in times where we have been hurting, we've been able to cry out and tell people. And so I'm sure you guys do, but I just want to encourage you, there's so much power in staying rooted, but also connected to that ecosystem of believers that we get to be a part of.
For sure.
Okay, so we're going to start to wrap up here. I've been inspired. You guys are amazing. I hope that young professionals that are looking for ways to maximize their influence and impact can see themselves in you guys and kind of figure out, okay, maybe I could just make 1% difference, improve myself a little bit every day. Not that you guys are perfect. We haven't established that, but we've established that you guys are doing things a little bit differently. And Zane, you mentioned earlier, you guys are part of Generation Z. And I remember being in my early 20s and everybody had all the opinions about the millennials. And to be honest, I was a relief when you guys got here because now no one talks about millennials being like, oh, these freaking millennials and their lattes. It's like, no, we'll keep our lattes and avocado toast. You guys can take the spotlight and do all the crazy things, Tide Pod challenges and whatever that Gen Z kids do. So I'm kind of joking, but we're going to do what I'm calling a lightning round. So I have a list of questions that I'm going to ask you. First thing that comes to mind when you hear them. I did give you an idea of what they might be, but I'm going to try to keep you on your toes here.
Yeah.
So kind of playing off the Gen Z vibes here. What is a Gen Z stereotype that you like being able to break?
Oh my gosh. I would say Gen Z is very conscious about their image.
Yeah.
And I say just being unafraid of embarrassment is
Yeah.
one of the things that has brought me, I think, into a lot of
100%.
the success that I've seen. Just being okay with failing and just at least trying.
That's great.
So being unafraid of being embarrassed or being cringy.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. Zane?
So I had something along those lines, but I will go back to what I said earlier. I think not being afraid to disconnect, knowing when to disconnect.
Oh, that's good.
Is a good
Yeah.
one.
I heard this analogy of my generation, technology was seen as a tool. And for y'all's generation, you've always had it. Well, you've had it a lot longer than we did. And
Yeah,
so
we're younger than the internet.
it's, wow. Thank you for that. It's more of an appendage to you guys. And so being able to disconnect is even harder.
Yeah.
Whereas, it's just the generational gap there is seen in terms of how we leverage or our dependency.
Yeah, you
upon.
talked about being internally sound.
Yeah.
How do you have any idea what's going on inside you if you don't disconnect?
Dude, yes. Yeah, absolutely. We could talk about that for an entire episode. All right. One more question about your generation. What's one thing that you hope Gen Z gets right that maybe my generation or others
I think I got one.
haven't done well? Go ahead.
So this is a trend of not raising iPad kids.
Oh, come on.
Oh man, that's so good.
I think we're aware of, and also to tag on to that, being able to just understand misinformation and disinformation and what is AI generated content. I think it's out there so much that there's, we're starting to develop an awareness of it, and we're starting to decide okay, we're not going to do this anymore. So
Yep.
our kids will not be iPad kids.
God bless. I love that.
Yeah.
We have decided in our house that there are very specific times where it's acceptable and allowed with very specific time frames, and it's long road trips to Ohio to visit my in-laws.
100%.
Studio day. Benji's actually sitting across from me over there, and he's been here all day at the studio. Has been drawing, has been reading. He did have a little bit of iPad time, but said, I don't want to take a nap. I'm just going to hang out and watch the recording. And he's just hanging out there. That's something that we're passionate about too, because you can learn more
Exactly.
by keeping your head up and looking around at the world around you and seeing what other adults are saying.
I literally
and
learned the entire German language just through like being
Exposure.
around it and
Yeah.
just listening and paying attention to things around me.
Yeah, that's great. Danny, what about for you?
Yeah, whew, that was a really good one.
That's a good answer. Yeah,
Man.
you can
Getting
ditto
back
his
to
if you
you.
want.
Yeah, no, what I think Gen Z should get right. Yeah, just be open to asking people about their experience. I think one of the biggest things is probably just being curious and genuinely curious
good.
towards others. I
Yeah.
think that's how we build relationships and find out about others' experiences so that we don't maybe make the same mistakes or so we know how to play our cards differently.
It's great.
So just getting to know people and being curious about people and
Yeah. Gen Z should double down on the curiosity.
absolutely.
Yeah. And if I may, I think we all could use it, but I think as technology evolves and the accessibility to knowledge evolves, we need more humility.
Yes.
All of us do,
Yes.
because gone are the days where you stare out the car window and you go, I wonder what makes the sky blue.
Yeah.
You can literally speak a few words and have something explaining
Yeah.
it to you. So now that we have this overwhelming, relentless, uninhibited access to information, our brains still have that same limited capacity to retain it.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of remaining humble and then also just being careful about what information we choose to retain.
Yeah.
That's
100%.
So
huge.
those are
yeah.
big ones for me too. Okay. Who inspires you right now? Who's a leader? A
Okay, I
a
have
person in your life, and it can be someone you know or don't know.
Yeah.
Like who's inspiring you today?
my manager, honestly.
Nice.
I think so as I'm taking more of a leadership role at the Mia Institute, I've been thinking a lot about how should I lead? And I think I got super lucky being placed at a company that enables leaders to give their employees the freedom they need while supporting them with the resources and the education they need as well.
Great.
So she's just someone I look up to a lot. She's always available if I need something, but it's so evident that she trusts me. Whenever something goes wrong, she takes responsibility for it. Whenever something goes right, I get get the praise for it.
Wow.
And so it's just cool to have that, as a young professional. I know I got really lucky, hit the
Yeah,
jackpot
that's
there.
great.
So that's someone I look up to, and I think that's something that we need more of, and I want to take initiative to create, as we continue advancing.
I love that. Danny, who's inspiring you
Man,
today?
I wanted to maybe say someone specific, but I'm gonna make it a little bit more general-ish.
Yeah.
I would say my team inspires me a lot.
Yeah.
Where I currently work, I would not be able to make it through the day some days without their encouragement, without their challenging me, enabling me, just saying, hey, this worked for me, see if it works for you.
Yeah.
We are such a team that bounces ideas off each other, and we love seeing each other's success. So I feel
love
like
it.
that just motivates me, inspires me every day.
That's great. I love that. Is there a book or a podcast that kind of changed the game for you? Like your go-to, that's the book that you point at, or podcast that you listen to when it's like, I need to level up.
I think one book that kind of shifted my entire frame of mind of, as a young person, how am I going to approach the professional world, is Dan Ariely. I think he wrote the book. It's called The Coddling of the American Mind.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it takes a focus on the idea of anti-fragility. So instead of, this idea of cancel culture, or instead of being afraid to do something hard, run towards the hard thing because you're
Great.
going to grow from it.
Yep.
Don't be afraid to look stupid or to fail trying.
Yeah.
And I think that completely shifted how I approached both college, both my professional career. And I think that's one thing that we really need to nail on. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good.
I think it is it Simon Sinek, Leaders Eat Last.
Mm-hmm.
That book, I read it in college because I took a lot of business leadership courses and even a servant leadership class.
Yeah.
And that was one of the books that made me truly realize, in order to make an impact, we have to look beyond ourselves. We have to humble ourselves.
It's good.
And I think just that picture of leaders eating last, sometimes as leaders we can feel entitled, I've earned the opportunity to be first in line. I've earned the opportunity to not have to do the work.
Yeah.
When really it's Jesus like presents something so countercultural. He doesn't really talk about Jesus, but like he presents something so countercultural that talks about in this book of, you know, how can we lay ourselves down for a second to truly make an impact that cares for someone more than what they can offer you and the influence that they can give you.
So good. I love that book.
Yeah, it's so good.
Simon
That's great.
Sinek is like a dream
Yeah.
guest. So if you guys ever get to meet him, just let
Yeah,
him know.
I'll call him if you want.
Let him know we're looking for him.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't have
How
a-
many degrees of separation?
Yeah,
away from
exactly.
Simon
I feel like if I say it enough times, eventually someone will be like, "Oh, I can connect you."
Yeah.
But no, I totally agree. I actually have made it a point to try to do that very physically in like group settings where there's food being served or there's a buffet line or there's a potluck. Usually, our friend Paul, he and I are arguing over who's going to go last. If you ever go to his house, you notice he will never eat until everyone has their plate made. And that's just his representation of the way he lives his life. And I think it's such a great, tangible example, great resource. Love that book.
This is just like a We Love Paul podcast.
I mean,
and
kind of
love
is.
it.
I
Yeah.
hope
He should
he's gonna
come
watch
on.
it. He's
Yeah.
gonna love it. They're amazing. All right, as we wrap up here, I want to ask you both a question that I'd love for you both to answer. If you were to think through giving your younger self some advice, or maybe just a nugget of advice that you would give to the emerging generation that's now coming, what is something that you might say to those folks that maybe we haven't already said? You guys have given great advice, but is there anything else that you would pass on in terms of something you've learned that they could glean from?
I think I'm going to lean a bit more professionally here.
Great, that's great.
Starting out your career, you're not always going to get your dream job first go. I think that's kind of a misconception. I don't know where we hear that, but it's something
Sure.
that maybe I thought, you know, you're going to go straight into exactly what you want to do with your life.
Honestly, I think my generation messed that up. I think this
So-
whole idea that like millennials, if you just go to college, you're going to graduate, and then everyone will be begging to hire you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think being okay with, you know, apply to those jobs that do pique your interest, that do have those skills where you get to exercise what you feel you're good at.
Yep.
Get the job and get those transferable skills so you can go on to the next part. And I think one of the biggest ways to do that is networking.
It's great.
I personally use LinkedIn and messaged a random person I had never met before. And I was like, you're doing what I want to be doing. How did you get here? What do you say I should do?
I love that.
And who
Yeah.
else can I talk to?
Yeah.
So I would say, don't be discouraged if you don't get your dream job first chance. If you do, very cool. If not, talk to other people who are where you want to be so that you can see how they got
Yeah.
there.
That's great advice.
And I think networking can be such a misconception. I think sometimes people hear that word and they get afraid. They're like, I'm not gonna cold call someone.
yeah.
But you know, for me, networking looked at like going and joining like a men's insurance group Bible study, and I think those group hangouts are really powerful.
Yep.
You know, I think there's also like other organizations that just do like industry focus. You know, if faith's not your thing.
Yeah.
Go join one of those. Like go in a group setting and network with peers that are on your same level. Maybe people that are also looking for a role in that industry. And in my experience, that has gotten me almost even further than like trying to ping the hiring manager on
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
100%.
Always.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, it's like showing up, like to just show up authentically, fully.
Yeah.
You guys are invested in your community. I like to say I'd rather be in fewer places more consistently
Yeah.
than try to be a million places at once.
Yeah.
This idea of being a mile wide and an inch deep, that's not a body of water. That's just a flood. But if you have riverbanks, if we can use that analogy, then you can have
That's
a
good.
deep river that goes in, has a lot of power, can power, generate energy and all of that stuff. There's so many analogies you can pull from that image. And what that does is that helps you to cultivate deeper relationships, build more trust, and learn from people in those spaces. So I think that's awesome.
100%.
Love it.
Any closing thoughts as we wrap up? Anything you guys want to end on here? Share or
Goodness. We get to end it?
Let's see. I think I'll finish with one more idea about Gen Z. I
Go ahead.
think Something that has helped me in my career is not to be afraid to own up to mistakes and having integrity. I think that's something
That's
that
great.
we can shy away from sometimes, but I think it's something that's really respected.
Yeah.
And I think, it'll carry you through your career, like being seen as someone who's trustworthy, who's true to their word, who does the right thing.
great.
Absolutely. Owning up to your mistakes and receiving feedback the right way, I've learned is invaluable. People can see things that you may be blind to. Blind spots are not easy to like receive, like, oh, really, I'm weaker in this, or I struggle with this. But if we take that advice and we actually try to work on it and build ourselves and our skills up, I think we can go so much further than we could otherwise without people,
Especially as
actually
young
speaking into our
professionals.
lives. Yeah.
Yeah, like you're gonna make so many mistakes. Like we have so much to learn, so let's double down on like how we do that.
Yeah.
I love it. Guys, thank you so much. This is an honor for me to get to sit with you guys and be inspired, learn from you, and hopefully give our listeners some really practical ways that they can execute. Like you can listen to this podcast episode and immediately start executing in humility and vulnerability in the way that you show up, and being willing to learn and grow and expand your perspective, even if it's not the same mindset that you would have had. There's so many things that you guys are doing well. And so I want to encourage you to keep going, keep fighting, keep hustling. You guys are amazing. And I really appreciate you guys both being here.
No, it was an awesome time. Thanks,
Adam.
Adam.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I love you guys. Support you guys. I'm in your corner for life. Hey, thank you so much for listening to this groundbreaking, earth-shattering, first ever dual podcast interview here on the show. It has been an honor and a joy to have Danny and Zane Nolte here with me. We're going to continue. This journey continues. I really want to say thank you to Wingman Payments and the O Agency for their investment in this podcast to help us do what we do. You can find more about them in the description of this podcast. And if you want to follow Danny and Zane's journey, I'm going to encourage you, click the links below so that you can follow them on LinkedIn, see their journey, keep up to date with everything that Zane's doing in the think tank. And maybe one day Danny's going to post one of her shows on LinkedIn and we'll all be there to see it. So
The link ticket.
yeah, there we go. Post the link ticket. So yeah, we appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next time.